New Tribes missionaries live among people groups in some of the most remote and forgotten places on the face of the earth. New Tribes Aviation pilots are responsible for getting them there. Tribal church planners and pilots alike share a common goal: reach tribal people with the gospel.
Air traffic control, you're cleared for takeoff.
Millions are still unreached.
Since I was a little kid, I'd always wanted to fly. After the Lord impressed on me about the tribal work, I didn't see how flying and tribal work actually fit together until I had an opportunity, to walk on trails for days. I can remember some of the trips we made with your backpack, traveling for a full week, up through rivers and up and down mountains. And the more I did that kind of hiking, I realized how much an airplane would help.
The task of supplying missionary families who live in remote tribal locations is demanding. Their only consistent contact with the outside world is the pilot. He brings long-awaited packages from loved ones, groceries from the mission commissary, and medical supplies for first aid, malaria, and a multitude of other ailments that are a part of a regular life in a primitive setting. Many missionary families have young children who are vulnerable to sickness and accidental injury. An aviation program for countries with remote tribal works is not just an option, it is the only option.
Some of our flights were about 4.5 hours, and some of our shortest flights were around a half hour. This is one way. And I got to thinking, how in the world would this be possible on foot? Because there were no roads in these areas. You couldn't drive there in a car even if you wanted to, because there's no roads. And it reminded me just of the time I used to hike over the jungle. What it would take us a full day of traveling, you could do 4 minutes in an airplane. And what I remember taking a week hiking took us about 46 minutes in an airplane. There was no comparison.
In settings where conditions are at best unpredictable, an emergency can arise out of the smallest of complications, and simply surviving at a basic level can be a full-time occupation. Efficient access to the outside world is vital.
New Tribes Mission Aviation is there to serve the missionaries that are in the tribe. They consider us kind of the missionary to the missionaries.
You're the missionary's friend. It's just a privilege to fly in there and be their friend and put an arm around them and pray with them, have a cup of coffee with them, and just encourage them.
Whatever the missionary needs, we'll haul it if we can get it in the aircraft. I've flown pigs, emus, you name it. Most missionary pilots have flown it.
The airplane has a lot of uses. It's an ambulance, it's a taxi, it's a school bus, it's a grocery store for the missionaries out in the tribe. It's just everything. It's really a tremendous tool that God has given us to reach tribal people with the gospel.
NTM Aviation pilots spend as much time on their plane as in them. The required maintenance regime in the aviation program is rigorous. Pilots are trained for spot landings and short field takeoffs on graded mountain airstrips.
We're here for about 9 months of training as a pilot mechanic.
It's a tremendous blessing to the missionaries to crawl into that airplane and feel comfortable and safe. And that's our purpose for training the new pilots that come through here.
Unforgiving terrain and isolated destinations are all in a day's work for missionary pilots. Fortunately, New Tribes Aviation isn't the only organization aware of this.
Quest had the vision from the start to develop an airplane for mission aviation. We're more than just an aircraft company. Almost everybody who works here has a deep passion for what the mission of Quest is all about.
The Kodiak's built for missions. It's just designed from the very beginning for the mission field by missionary pilots themselves that have had that experience.
The Kodiak really is going to revolutionize how we do missionary aviation. It is going to fly faster, it's going to haul more, it's going to do a lot more than what the airplanes that we're flying right now currently do.
It's real rugged. It's designed to go into unimproved strips, grass, gravel, sandbars. It has excellent performance, short takeoff and landing. Even when it's fully loaded, it'll climb 1,700 feet per minute.
The performance numbers for the airplane had to match those same performance numbers of the smaller airplanes.
Going through the certification flight testing with the FAA, they were really impressed with the Kodiak. The design has really met and exceeded our expectations.
For those who are hauling passengers and cargo, we've got a good-sized cargo pod that goes underneath the airplane.
The ability to fly large amounts of cargo, large numbers of people, is going to be more effective in the use of our time.
Kodiak's designed to be operated in third world countries where they're running out of avgas. If you can even get it, it's very expensive.
To me, the single biggest advantage that it has is that it uses Jet A fuel. For instance, in Senegal, we're paying over $300 an hour just for fuel costs, and the Kodiak is going to be able to come in and operate for less than $100 an hour. Most of the aircraft that we're flying are 20 to 40 years old. We've rebuilt them many times over. The technology is there to make an aircraft that is going to have less maintenance issues for our mechanics on the field.
Making a deposit on a Kodiak from the Quest factory is only the first of many costly steps to be taken before a fully outfitted aircraft arrives at its final destination.
As we sat down to talk about how many Kodiaks New Tribe's mission could use, around 14 is what we decided that we would trust the Lord for, and we're talking millions upon millions of dollars to see that happen. Now we're trusting the Lord to pay for the finishing costs, the pod and the paint, and the seats, the big tires, and that's going to cost somewhere around $600,000 for each of these aircraft coming off the assembly line before they're really ready for field service. Some of those additional costs also include shipping it to the countries, paying customs and duty to get it into the country, training the pilots, tooling for it. When you take into the consideration that the aircraft flies faster, it carries more, and the fuel cost is going to be less than a traditional aircraft that we're flying right now. In the end, it's going to save a tremendous amount of money overall in missions worldwide as far as reaching people with the gospel.
New Tribe's mission has one purpose: reach tribal people with the gospel. This work has been greatly aided by modern aircraft, but millions are still unreached. The Kodiak will revolutionize the effectiveness of New Tribe's mission aviation around the world. No tribe is unreachable.